Is with me this week. And Johnny, this is your first trip on the summer tour, and I guess it takes you a while to get back in action, doesn't it?
Well, it does, Jim. I cashed. I averaged about 212 for the week, but not good enough to get into the top 24.
Well, we've got some brand new lanes this week, and have the scores been up or down as a result?
Well, the lanes have really played terrific. They're a different kind of lane. They're put in 5 different sections, and all of the wood is in one piece. They're not put in separately. And what has happened is we have 4 right-handers on the show. A couple of them throw big hooks, and a couple of them are strokers. They go fairly straight, plus a left-hander. They're playing all different lines. The scores were nice and higher in the 220s. So everything has been fairly neutral and fairly good scoring.
Well, the guy in that #1 position, and we'll get to him shortly, but it's Earl Anthony. He's a left-hander. He is shooting for his 4th Waukegan Open title. But before we get to Earl, the fella in the #5 position, certainly no stranger, has been on ESPN a number of times already, Tommy Baker.
Well, Tommy Baker, he won the Northern California Open earlier this year. It was his first title, and he is probably one of the top 3 bowlers to come out on tour in the last 3 years. Tommy Baker's terrific. His future is going to be, well, it's unquestionable, and he'll be tough to beat. Anytime he's on TV, he's tough.
Well, he's in that #5 position where he won from in the Northern California Open. He had to get a bunch of strikes even to make the show. He got 6 in a row in the position round last night. The #4 position is Gil Sliker.
And Gil Sliker is one of those other 3, except that Gil hasn't won yet. In fact, the talk of the tour is, why hasn't Gil Sliker won a title yet? Because he bowls so well, he should have won by now. Perhaps today's his day.
Well, of course, as you said, he hasn't won one yet, and he thinks that today's his day. I had a chance to visit with him. He had an outstanding average, 219. Everybody averaged very, very well, especially the top 5. You said you had a 212 and just barely cashed for the week. The #3 position, another guy that's no stranger on ESPN, Steve Martin, and he, too, is going to be one of the outstanding bowlers of the 80s.
Well, Steve Martin, unquestionably, he's won 3 times already, and he's only 21 years old. And he is truly one of the power bowlers of the tour. When the folks watch him bowl, if they haven't seen him already, they're going to see one of the strongest bowlers in the game today.
A 218 average. Is there any doubt that at 21 years of age, he's accomplished just about more than anybody else has at his age?
Well, there have been others that have done things at a young age, but we were teasing Steve today. We said that he's bowled so well so early that later on in his career, his head will probably go before his physical body does.
The #2 position, a fellow that's won 1 PBA title, Guppy Troup.
Oh, Guppy Troup, tremendous competitor, especially when it's a gutter shot. That's when you're playing the first or second board on the lane like Guppy has this week. And anytime Guppy can get that far to the right on the lane, he's very, very tough to beat. That's his favorite place to play.
And what has he done? In 1979, he had 6 300 games. That is an all-time PBA record. He's had an outstanding week, and he is in the #2 position. The fella at the King of the Hill this week, one of the greatest, absolutely, in the history of bowling, maybe the greatest, Earl Anthony.
Well, very possibly the greatest of all time, Jim. He was just voted by his peers as the bowler of the decade. And so at least for the last 10 years, he's definitely been the greatest. And Waukegan, he's won here 3 times. Nobody's ever won 4 times in the same house. Earl's going to try to accomplish that today. He's also had a 2nd and 2/3 in this house. So in the last 7 years, Earl has really dominated here. He's leading again. They're going to have to bowl great to beat him today.
Well, he's had a 224 average. He's won more titles and more money than anybody else in the history of bowling. He's shooting for $1 million in prize money. He's over $800,000 already. So in the opening match on ESPN, the #5, the #4 positions, Tommy Baker and Gil Sliker. The winner of that one will face Steve Martin. Guppy Troup will be at the #2 spot for the survivor, and then Earl Anthony. It's a pretty good purse this week. And the first prize from $90,000 is $11,000. It goes to the champion, and the opening match on ESPN coming up in just a moment. And there's the handshake. We are ready to go in the opening match. Tommy Baker and Gil Sliker. And these 2 guys battled once earlier in the week, and it was a real dandy match. Tom Baker defeated Sliker 202-198. And Gil at the #4 spot has the option, and he's decided to start and finish. So there's the first shot of the match and a 10-pin.
It's a half 10, Jim. Gil on his first shot, it seemed to stick just a hair at the foul line, and made him rear up just a hair, causing him to leave a flat 10. You don't get the proper lift on the ball that you should.
Gil has bowled just one game on this TV pair this week, and he had a low 166, his low game of the week.
That could make a big difference as far as confidence. You like to bowl on a pair that you can hit.
Well, Tommy Baker is ready to go. Tommy has 2 games and 2 excellent games here, 253 and 236 on the TV pair. The composite average of the 5 bowlers on these lanes, 216. Tommy Baker, Buffalo, New York. He is on the nose.
A little soft, it's called the Big 4, Jim, the 4, 6, 7, 10. You'll notice Tommy Baker is playing a little further outside or a little further on the right of the lane than Gil Sliker is. And what happens on conditions that hook in the back end of the lane as much as these do is when you hit high, the ball is called cutting right through the heart of the pins. And you do leave a lot of splits from out there. However, your carry power is increased, so it does even out.
And he goes after, picks up 2 pins, so he is open in the opening frame of the match. Bowling fans might remember his last appearance on ESPN. Tommy would certainly like to forget it. He bowled just 130 about 3 or 4 weeks ago. 6 strikes in a row to finish with a 224 and make the finals. He had to go right down to the wire to get that number 5 spot.
It really was an exciting match, that last game last night, Jim. He had to go all the way to strikeout to make the show and pass Randy Lightfoot, and he did it. All great shots in the 10th.
And he's a little short, but you can see the action unfold as the 5 is the last one to drop. Strike in the second frame for Tom Baker.
That's that advantage of playing a little bit further outside. Although you'll need more splits, when you do hit light like that, the higher percentage of the time you'll carry the strike because the ball is breaking at such a sharp angle into the pocket.
The average, by the way, for all bowlers in the tournament this week, 204. Here's Gil Sliker from Washington, New Jersey. Good pocket hit. Last kick out of the 10-pin, and he goes fair strike in 2 frames. And I had a chance to ask Gil Sliker. He's looking forward to the first tour win. Does he have any special feeling that this could be the one?
Yes, I do. I've been bowling steady this summer, especially since I'm going to be getting married in September. And I feel my confidence is up, and I've taken a lot of the outside pressure off myself. And I'm just going to go out and bowl the best I can and have maybe a little more killer instinct, as a lot of people tell me I should have, in bowling match play. And if I get that and things go my way, we'll see what happens.
Well, a little bit of the killer as he picks up 2 strikes in a row and got a 10-pin kicked out both times, and he's in pretty good shape. Tommy Baker up now trying to duplicate the feat. He's working on a strike in the second frame. Tommy qualified just 15th, went all the way up to 4th after the second match played block. And as we told you before, 6 strikes in a row to make the show. Outside, and it's not going to come in.
Now that time he over-adjusted, Jim. He left the double pinochle in the first frame going high. He adjusted. The ball hung on him and broke too late, causing him to leave the washout, the 1-2-10. And Gil Sliker chose to finish on the lane that Tommy Baker's having trouble on. The first time that Gil bowled on the lane, he got a perfect ball reaction. Well, we'll see what happens later on.
Tommy Baker's average for the week is 217. Earl Anthony, the average leader, 224. Tommy Baker going after it, not going to get there, and he is open in that lane twice already. And Gil Sliker with 2 strikes in a row has a pretty good advantage.
Right away, Gil Sliker really has Tommy Baker in a hole. He has a 36-pin lead. With a strike up, he can really get up and take such a commanding lead in the beginning of the game that it's going to be tough for Tommy to get back, and Tommy still hasn't figured out the right-hand lane. Very crucial frames coming up.
Tommy has the 3rd best average for 1980. He is averaging 215. His average for the week, 217. Needs a strike and needs it here, and he's got it. 2 strikes in a row on that left lane. Gil Sliker has 2 strikes in a row going after 3 when we come back to Waukegan after this message. And we invite you to stay tuned for more summer basketball on ESPN. This is a special edition. It'll be Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. This time, 2 NBA All-Star teams competing in the 22nd annual Maurice Stokes Benefit Game. Beat the Heat and watch great action Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on Total Sports, ESPN.
Jim, did you see that show on Big Mo when they made it into a movie about his entire life? It was really something. And
yes, I did, Johnny.
It was a terrific show. Great basketball player.
Great individual, and the game of basketball has certainly come back to support him when he has been down, and he appreciates it very much. There's a no shot for Gil Sliker, and he comes away with just an 8 count.
Gil missed his pie alley that time. This is the lane that he chose to finish on. This could be very important. So far, lane 18 has played much tougher than lane 17, and I'm sure that Steve Martin, who's sitting waiting for the winner of this match, is going to really make a decision on which lane to finish by what's going on here.
Gil left the 10 pin in the first frame, goes after the 6-10 here in the fourth, spares it off. So Gil Sliker has 68 on a spare through 4, and Tom Baker has 34 strike. So he has him doubled, but Baker is on a strike and Sliker just a spare.
Gil at one time had a problem with concentration in the finals, Jim. He always was a good qualifier, but then when it came to the top 24, he had trouble getting to the show. He's really overcome that. And if he can overcome TV, he can be a winner.
Looking for the pocket, and that is just a perfect hit for Gil Sliker in the 5th frame. He's got 3 strikes out of 5. Tommy Baker, with those 2 opens now, will have to go back to that right-hand lane, the one that has given him trouble.
And I would say that's overcoming TV lights.
So far, so far. Tommy from Buffalo, he's 9th in the money this year, 48,400 so far, 3rd in the average at 215, and just a tremendous attitude. On the nose, and he goes back to the double pinochle, the same lead from the first frame on the same lane.
Yeah, there's Randy Lightfoot, our alternate. He finished 6th. He was the one that Tommy Baker struck out for the 224 to just beat out of the show by about 8 pins.
And Randy had the only 300 game of the week. He was 18th qualified, went up to 12th, 7th, and just missed the show, finishing 6th. Tommy goes after the 2 pins on the right, and 3 splits and 3 opens on that right lane. Goes back to the left lane now, where he has 2 strikes in a row. However, he is trailing now by 48 pins.
Well, Tommy's really in trouble on the right-hand lane. His best chance of winning this match right now is he has to keep hitting his good lane and make some kind of a drastic move on lane 18. Probably maybe move way inside to about the 3rd arrow, because he's getting a very bad ball reaction from outside.
Tommy Baker in the pocket, gets that kick, picks up that pin, so he is perfect on the left lane and not so perfect on the right. Tommy Baker had a 14-9-1 match play record this week. His lowest game was 146. And up till he got that strike in the 6th, he just had it open in the 5th with just 60 pins. Gil Sliker, 37th last week in Davenport. The qualification leader, and he's got a strike in the 6th frame.
A great shot by Gil Sliker. Now, he's playing about, 3 or 4 boards further left than Tommy is. Now, if Tommy was watching that shot pretty close, he should pick up on that, and he should move there his next time that he gets up on lane 18.
So Gil moves over on the left side now. He dropped from 3rd place down to 4th by losing 225, 210 to Steve Martin in the position round. And his average for the week, 219. His 1980 average is 210. He is getting a re-rack. The first one is automatic. By the way, there was 160 bowlers this week, short field. 3 days of competition, 18 games of qualifying to reach the top 24, and 24 games of match play. 30 bonus pins to the winner of each, and a strike to Gil Sliker, and he is in pretty good shape now, as he has a 118 through the 5th, 3 strikes, 5 out of 7. The other 2 are spares. Tommy Baker's up in the 7th, and he has missed 3 times in a row on the lane that he'll have to go to. Back in a moment. right, as we take a look at the pins, we will remind you professional football from Canada coming your way. Edmonton at Winnipeg on Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. The Edmonton Eskimos and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in a big Western Division game. And don't forget to catch all the action of the CFL all the way through the Grey Cup on ESPN. Boy, it's as hot as it's been this summer, and I'm watching these guys. Yeah, I don't know, John. It's
well, that
cooler.
Canadian football, though, in the winter. They think Minnesota's cold.
It's cooler in here. Tommy Baker, though, it's heating up for him. He'd like to heat up his game. He is way back, 68 pins, and gets the strike on that right lane. He's probably wondering if it would ever come. So Tom Baker has 60, working on 2 strikes through 7, and Gil Sliker is 118 on 2 strikes, 58 pin advantage. And it is now the 8th frame for Tom Baker, who trails.
Now, at that time, Tom moved into where Gil was playing. It might be a little too late, but if he could strike out, there's still a possibility he can win this game.
Tommy, in the 4th round of the tournament, had a 19-14 8-game series. He had a 276, 269, 259, 258, 256 this week. Tommy Baker going after another strike, and he is open this time on his good lane, and that just about finishes him off, John.
Yes, it does. He got up on his good lane, got just a little bit soft, caused the ball to hook about 2 extra boards, go through the nose, and Tommy Baker has caught every bad break. Every time he's missed the pocket, he's left some kind of a hole, some kind of a circle, almost an unmakeable spare.
This will be the 4th open frame for Tommy Baker out of 8.
Well, Gil has reached a position now, Jim, where he has the game just about locked up. And if he would do anything right now, it would be to maybe experiment a little bit, find out if there is even a better place than where he's playing. And that's exactly what he did, Jim. That time he played about 7, about 2 or 3 boards outside the second arrow from where he was playing. And the ball did hang a little bit and leave the bucket, so I'm sure that Gil will go back to his original place in the next spring.
Looking for the spare now. Gil, as you know, one of the consistent non-winners on the tour, although he has won 4 regional titles. And he was a qualification leader. 10th after the first match play walk, and 8th after the second match play games. Picks up the spare. So he is at a 163 through 7th with a spare up in the 8th frame. Tommy Baker with an anemic 115 through 8. He's got to strike out to get a 175. So Gil Sliker just needs, what, 2 pins, 3 pins in the next 2 frames, huh?
Yeah, just about staying behind the line, Jim. Baker will have to wait another year.
Another day. So Gil Sliker going for the match right now, picks up a strike, and he's got it in the 9th frame. So Tommy Baker in the 9th now. Tommy said he just hasn't been able to get that big game that he's needed all week. Feels that he's very fortunate just to be here, as he had to rally for those 6 strikes in a row last night. And he picks a 9-pin count in the 9th frame.
I think Tom, if he would have moved just a little bit sooner, would have bowled a lot better game. It happens a lot of times where in practice you're hitting them pretty good, but as the lanes start to get a little bit drier and your ball starts to hook high just about at airtime, and if you don't realize it quick enough, it can catch you so fast the game's over before you even had a chance to notice it.
We told you Tommy Baker had a 146 game. He certainly should surpass that. There's some of the other finishes.
Randy Lightfoot, our alternate, we told you how he just missed. Steve Neff out of Sarasota, Florida. He bowled really well. He almost made the show. Mark Williams, Dennis Lane, one of our veterans. Art Trask bowled very well this week. Greg Shields and John Ice. In 13th is John Wellseen, a local area boy. Mike Berlin from Quad Cities, Firestone champion. Bill Spigner, Don McCune, Malacosta, Bob Glass, and Freddie Connor. Mark Baker finished 20th. Skip Tucker, 21st. Matt Serena from Kelso, Washington, one of the funniest guys on the tour, in 22nd. Gip Lentine, who incidentally his brother just became one on the Detroit Tigers. And Pete Couture rounds out the top 24.
Okay, Tommy Baker with a strike in the 10th gives him a 135. He has to pick up 2 more to get a 165. And Gil Sliker has it all wrapped up. He is shooting with a potential of 243. There is a 7 count for Tommy Baker. The 1980 leading money winner, Wayne Webb, finished 49th in the tournament. He was the defending champion, 1 spot shy of cashing. Last year here, he beat one of last week's finalists, Jimmy Certain, after coming from 240 pins behind to win it. And last week's winner, Jim Godman, finished 88th out of the 160-man field. Tommy Baker picks up the spare, and he finishes with a 155.
Well, going up 25 pins every time he's on, Jim, he'll win pretty soon. I know Tommy feels bad. He really bowled well all week. Like he said, he didn't have a big game, but he was very consistent. And that's probably the first bad game he's had all week.
Gil Sliker with another bucket. And a 6-pin count of the 10th frame. Steve Martin is a fellow that will be coming up next. These guys battled in the position round as Gil Sliker lost to Steve Martin 225 to 210.
There's Gil's fiancée, Crystal. They're going to be getting married, I think, in about a month. So I'm sure she's excited that he won the first match.
Yeah, $11,000, be a nice little dowry. There is a spare.
Interesting thing happened, Jim. I'm wondering if Gil was trying any kind of a psych. He chose lane 18 to finish on, yet his 3 bad shots came on lane 18. I wonder if he really is hitting that lane well and he's trying to get Steve Martin to pick the other lane for him to finish on.
Okay, Gil trying for a strike. Give him a 223 if he picks it up here. And he does not. He gets 6 pins. And instead of the 223, he finishes with a 219, still well over Tommy Baker's 155. Steve Martin, who's been one of our regulars on ESPN this summer, is coming up next. He'll face Gil Sliker, and we'll have that much for you right after this message. Well, we're ready to go in the second match. Gil Sliker won the opener by 64 pins, 219 to 155. Faces Steve Martin now, and Steve has beat him twice. We told you in the position round, 225 to 210. He also defeated him 278 to 248. Picked up 60 pins on him and bowled a 248. How about that? There's the opening shot of the match. Gil Sliker with a 9-pin count. Same way he opened the first match. And what happened to him?
Well, the ball was on second ball, and then Gil didn't notice, so all they'll do is set up the 4-pin right.
That will be a manual adjustment. Let's talk, if we will, John, about the new lanes. We told you they were brand new lanes. They are modular, all wood, all laminated, all glued, and there are no nails, and that's something new.
Yes, it is. It's by Perry Austin. They come in 5 different sections, and when they're put together, the front 16 feet is maple, the rest is pine, the approach is maple, and it's really made for a neutral condition. You'll notice in this match that Gil Sliker throws the ball fairly straight. Steve Martin throws a lot of hook. One is a little bit further outside than the other. We have a left-hander on the show. We have somebody that throws an in-between hook. So it's made for an excellent condition with evenly high scores.
Well, Gil Sliker considerably better than his 166 average on these lanes. He got a 219 in the opener. Steve Martin gets them all but the 2-pin. That's the lone remaining pin up there for him. Steve is averaging 216 on the TV pair, which is the composite TV pair average for all 5 bowlers. Steve's 2 games here, 199, 233. He goes after a spare here, too.
And Steve got a little quick on that shot and let his elbow roll out to the right a little bit. That causes the ball to skid and not finish in the back end.
Steve, only 21 years old, from Kingsport, Tennessee, picks up the spare. The match is all even through the first frame, and Steve Martin, just 21 years of age. What long-range goals do you have?
Well, I'd like to be able to compete, stay in good shape, and compete for a good 10, maybe 15 more years, and just make a good living at it, hopefully become one of the big stars of the 80s. possibly the 90s too, because I'll still be young enough to do it in the 90s too. So I'd like to keep bowling to the year 2000 if I could.
Goes after it, puts it right in the pocket, and you heard it on ESPN. Steve Martin says he wants to bowl out of the tour till he's well up into his 90s.
Well, Steve, he certainly has the physical capabilities, and he's going to make a lot of money for a long time. Bowling to the year 2000, it can be done. Well, certainly Dick Weber and Salvino bowled in 4 decades. I don't see why Steve Martin can't.
Well, the year 2000, he will only be 41. Earl Anthony is certainly over that. Earl didn't start till he was 31, and there is a 10-pin left for Gil Sliker.
Gil got just a little softer than he did in the 10th frame of his previous match, where the ball hung twice. One left the bucket, the other one missed a head pin. And it was a good adjustment. It was a half 10. It was a good shot.
Gil's earnings last year threw up at $37,000. He only has 23 this year, so he needs a big finish. Picks up the spare, so he picks up the 4-pin in the opening frame, the 10-pin in the second frame, and now crosses over.
Yes. Gil's average on the TV pair is 166. Well, I'm sure he helped out that average with a 219 the first game. He seems to figure him out a little bit.
He lists on his biography sheet that he likes to wear green. That's one of his superstitions. I don't see green on him. There's a strike anyway in the 3rd frame.
That was an excellent shot. He couldn't have thrown that ball any better. You know, Jim, Tita Semez, who's also out of New Jersey, always wore green because it's the Garden State, and Tita didn't win for a long time, and then one time he put on brown and he won, and he's worn brown ever since. Maybe Gil's trying to follow in his footsteps.
Well, it could be that Steve Martin beat him to the green because a fellow in the higher order gets choice of clothes. But he could have slipped some green socks or something on there. Steve Martin has 2 different kinds of shoes, and there is an 8-pin count.
That's a very unlucky break. Usually, a lot of times, especially when you throw the kind of ball Steve does, on that kind of hit, you'll rattle him around and get a strike. If not, you get 9, leaving the 7-8 split. Very unusual. The ball has to go right in between, and the ball will make both pins. He has to... If you'll notice, Steve is wearing 2 different shoes right here as we watch him shoot at the split.
Not going to get it. That is a tricky one. You just need perfect placement for that ball to pick up that one.
The reason being that due to the humidity and the heat of this week, a lot of times the approaches were tacky. Now, Steve still wants to slide, so he has on a shoe that makes, with a Teflon sole that makes him slide. Yet all of his hook and his power comes from his pivot step. So if he had on a Teflon sole on the other foot, he would slip out and not throw the amount of ball that he wants to. So he has on a normal shoe and a Teflon shoe to create the same thing.
Steve Martin, the youngest ever to surpass $100,000 in career earnings. He's just 21 years old. There's a strike in the 4th frame. The U.S. Open champ back in the groove. Gil Sliker with 2 spares, and the strike is up. And we'll be back to pick him in the 4th frame when our bowling continues from Waukegan on the Pro Bowlers Tour on ESPN. And be watching ESPN for the best softball of the world. 10 games of the Men's World Fast Pitch Championships are coming up and continuing through September 2nd at 9 p.m. when you can see the championship game. A lot of softball, and it's yours on ESPN.
Oh, I love softball. I remember playing in the schoolyard. I just couldn't hit the pitchers, though. That was the biggest problem, Jim.
They weren't playing slow pitch that in those days, probably as much as
we called it windmill.
Swinging and missing and creating a lot of breeze, huh?
Right.
Gil Sliker. Just going to nick the head pin. He would have to be lucky if he got action out of that shot and got a strike, and he leaves the 7.
Right, that was almost the same shot as Steve Martin's, except that Gil was lucky enough to get 9. He knocked down the 8-pin. Lane 18 seems to be playing pretty tough. It seems as if whether oil is getting carried down or a little bit of glaze on the lanes. It's getting tighter as the bowlers go on instead of starting to hook more.
Drills it down, picks up the spare. So Gil Sliker has a 59 spare through 4 frames, and Steve Martin is 48 strike. It's an 11-pin difference, but Martin is working on a strike, so another one, and it's a 1-pin difference. Gil had his best year in 1978, winning $39,765 in prizes. Good enough for 14th place on the yearly money list in 1978. Also won the Steve Nagy Sportsmanship Award in that year in the pocket, and a strike for Gil Sliker.
Great shot by Sliker there. That 1 pin is very important. He has an 11-pin lead. And watch, we're going to look at Gil on this replay here, and watch how solid, perpendicular to the foul line with the foot, the high extension, keeping the elbow in. And you'll notice that the ball doesn't deflect when it hits the pins. It goes straight into the pit. That's what makes it carry.
Now, by getting that strike, he forces Steve Martin to get 2 strikes to cut that 11-pin advantage down. Getting a spare here will actually work to the advantage of Sliker, so Martin needs a strike, and look at that. Right into the pocket for Steve Martin.
Well, that's why he's got 3 titles and a U.S. Open title, Jim. He always seems to answer to the pressure. He has all year.
Well, he won the Southern California Open, the U.S. Open, and he was 4th in Fremont, 5th in Portland this summer. A fellow that's been up there all the time, a tremendous bowler, but yet his average is not in the top 50. Isn't that strange?
Well, as far as the average goes a little bit, Jim, a lot of times it depends on where you make the finals. If and Steve is good in brickyards where the averages are low. That's the 2-5-8 leave. That's a variation of the bucket. It's a pretty tough spare. You have to hit the 2-5 right in the middle, but the ball must be strong enough to carry the 8-pin, the back pin. But brickyard bowlers like Steve Martin, a brickyard means a low-scoring house. If they make the finals, they'll make a lot of money, finish high, but their average will be lower than somebody that does well on the easier conditions.
Steve Martin really cranks it up. Look at that pin go! The 5th pin hangs, and number 5 drops, and Steve Martin's got the spare in the 6th frame.
Here it is. This is amazing. It looks like the breeze knocks this one over.
The windmill got it. Look at this.
Well, I saw it on replay, and I still didn't think it was going to fall.
Okay, we're back to Gil Sliker, Washington, New Jersey, protege. He's looking good and gets the strike, and he goes on 2 strikes in a row now.
That was a great shot on the tough lane. When you open the rack like that, you know you threw the ball well. And it gives him a 14-pin lead again. And to hit that lane is really important because now he's getting up on his good lane.
Well, Gil Sliker had 31 200 games this week, 11 in a row. His high game was 289. His high 8-game total was 1804. He had a very low 1626 in the 4th round. Games of 171, 186, 166, and 193, but bounced back off of that in a bucket.
And Gil, with a little bit of lack of concentration because it was his good lane, he leaves it, well, it's called a 5-pin cluster, the bucket with the man in motion. Has a lot of connotations to it. But the wood was extremely important. It put the match under 10 pins again. In fact, he has to make this to retain the lead.
And he had a similar lead back in the 8th frame of the 1st game. Prior to that, in this game, he had 3 other spares, all with just 1 pin, and he has his 4th spare of the game. But he loses a little bit of pin count, gives him 124 now in the 6th, working on a spare. Steve Martin is back. If he gets a strike, he will have 115 on strike, so it's a close match, and we'll be back after this message. Well, as you probably know, we've had summer basketball for you all summer long. Summer League basketball featuring the Southern California League, the Baker League, and the Rucker Tournament. And Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, it's the Rucker Tournament from New York City. And you can see it on Total Sports ESPN. Steve Martin from Kingsport, Tennessee. Trailing by 9 pins in the match now. He is working on a spare in the 6th. He has strikes in the 2, 2nd, 4th, and 5th. And had that 7-8 split, which he did not get in the 3rd frame. That's too high.
And right there, Steve Martin got a little soft right after that little bit of a break and gives an over a 10-pin lead back to Gil Sliker. Very important. The wood is becoming crucial in this match, Jim.
Well, after leaving the 2-5-8, he leaves the 3-6-10. 2 ways to get this, as you know. The best way is to go the right of the 3-pin.
Right. The wood we're talking about is the pin count differential between the 2 bowlers. And a double picks up usually 10 pins, or an open loses 10 pins. So keeping it over or under 10 is extremely important. If you're down more than 10 pins, you need 3 strikes in order to take the lead. Less than 10, you need only 2.
Well, Steve Martin has a 112 working on a spare. Gil Sliker a 124 on the spare. As we look at that replay, he did it the hard way, but got it nonetheless.
That was, Steve did get very lucky there. He was supposed to make it on the other side. He made a bad shot and got away with it, but that's all part of the game.
12-pin lead for Gil Sliker into the 8th frame. Steve Martin is up, and the 7-pin wouldn't go for him.
You get a lucky break and you give one back. Very crucial shot there with that solid 7. Jim, you notice both bowlers in this match are wearing the SuperTouch, who's the sponsor of this tournament. And what it does is it stops you from squeezing with your index finger. The SuperTouch on the finger does all the work of keeping that index finger straight for you, so that you don't have to squeeze to keep your wrist straight.
That is a spare for Steve Martin in the 8th frame. Steve's match play record of the week, 14-9-1. He had a very, very good 1876 series in round 4 and came right back after that and got only a 16-19. That is his high and low. But when the money is on the line, he is there. Here's Gil Sliker now, 8th frame. Good shot, right in there for a strike, and Gil increases his lead.
Now, Gil Sliker on lane 18 has really made a tremendous decision and very intelligent. He has moved his feet 3 boards to the right. He's looking at the same spot and throwing the ball much harder than he was originally. He's taking a more direct line on the tougher lane, and it seems to be working. He's got the lead in this match.
Okay, Gil on a strike now after the bucket, and only a 5 count with a spare in the 7th frame. We are in the 9th frame, the foundation frame, as it's known as. And Gil is already working on a strike. He has 1 double in the match already, looking for 2. Got the 7-pin, the pin that wouldn't go for Steve Martin before, and Gil increasing his lead even further. 23 now.
Right, this was a great shot, total trust, and it's very hard to trust the ball when you really need it, but he gets it about a board wide of his target, and the revolution's coming back. The head pin off the wall just carries everything out.
There's Steve, and he gets him racked up and knocked down. Martin with a strike in the 9th frame. He's got to go all the way up. He has a 151 strike in the 9th.
That ball, Jim, was the perfect example of the difference between a bowler like Gil Sliker, who's a stroker and depends on accuracy, and a bowler like Steve Martin, who depends on the power of his bowling ball. It was the same hit as Gil's, but he actually shoved the pins off the lane. He didn't even need the sideboards.
Steve Martin finished 32nd in this tournament in 1977. That's his highest finish. A win today would put him 4th in the money list. He would go up 2 notches from 6th to 4th. They're winning this championship, and $11,000 in there. Gets a strike. They felt pretty good for him in that one. So he has the first strike up now in the 10th frame.
That was the crucial shot. If he didn't strike there, Jim, he had no chance of winning this match, no chance of going to the next match. Now he's forced Gil Sliker to get a minimum of 9 on his first ball just by that first strike, as long as he got a 9-pin count here. He gets 1 more strike, and Gil would need 9 spare 9 to win.
Steve has said that he felt he was pretty lucky to be here this week in the position where he is in, and he needs a strike here. Second ball, 10th frame. Steve Martin is outside, but it came from the bushes, and he leaves the 7-pin.
Unbelievable. 2 solid 7s, one on either side of the double. This ball couldn't be thrown any better. You'll see that the ball hits perfectly in the pocket. Instead of the 4-pin taking out that 7-pin the way it should, it just comes right off the wall and misses it, and that's amazing that it happens twice in 4 frames.
Saw 2 pins kind of collide in front of that 7-pin and shield it out as they went their separate ways and wouldn't let the ball go through to take it back out. Picks up the spare, and he finishes the match with an even 200.
Now, Gil Sliker needs 9 pins on the first shot, and he's the winner. If he gets anything less, he must make the spare to win.
Okay. He has 144 in the 7th, working on a 2-bagger, going for 3. It's a little bit outside.
He got it.
Gets the 9-pin count. So that is it. Gil Sliker has won this match. If he would miss this, he would still end up with a 201 and win it by a pin. So he picks up the spare. That gives him a 193. He has won the match because he has 203 plus. He will face Guppy Troup, and we'll be back after this message. We are ready to go into the next match. Gil Sliker, believe it or not, on his final ball of the previous match again, got that 5-pin bucket, or the bucket with a man in motion, as you call it before. That's 3 times that he's left that. The final score was 208 to 200, and now it's Guppy Troup. First up is Gil Sliker, who has a 9 spare in the first frames of the previous 2 games, and this time it's a 6.
Oh, wow, the 3, 6, 7, 10. This, Gil got a little soft one through the nose, and although this does look like quite a design, and it is a tough split, it is a little bit easier than it looks, Jim. Gil will make believe that all he has up is the baby split, because usually if you can cover the baby split, you have a very good chance of making this.
Baby split is the 310.
Exactly.
Okay. Goes after it, just doesn't quite get that lead pin, so he opens the match with an 8 count. And Guppy Troup ready to come up now. Guppy defeated Gil Sliker 214 to 201 in the previous match between the two. Guppy has bowled 3 games on these lanes. He bowled the position round of the TV pair as well, got only 172 in the position round. Previous scores 219 and 242 for a 211 average. Okay, Guppy with the opening shot. The fellow from Jacksonville, Florida, opens the match with a strike. And Guppy Troup has bowled very, very well lately. I asked him what is his main strength of his game right now.
Well, I changed my game a little bit last week, and I started tucking my elbow into my stomach, which keeps me from throwing my elbow out. And I've got the roll that I had on the ball last year when I won Battle Creek, and everything just seems to fall back in place now.
Now, what he means by that, Jim, is he's keeping his elbow in. He's not kicking the elbow to the right when he lets it go. He's keeping it nice and straight towards the pins.
Good shot.
That was an excellent shot, and if that's Guppy's problem, if he can keep that elbow tight, he's going to really be tough to beat, because he has been having a little bit of a tough summer, and then he found out that that was the reason. And since he's corrected, he bowled excellent all week.
Well, he's got 2 strikes. I'm Jim Roberts. Johnny Petraglia, the winner of the Tournament of Champions, 1971. World Open Chicago in 74. Won in Palatine 79. Milwaukee 79. This area's been good to you, John. And there is a 9-pin count for Gil Sliker.
No complaints, Jim. Gil was a little light again on lane 18 every once in a while. If you get just a little quick on that lane, it hangs for you. Definitely the tougher of the 2 lanes.
And if you caught our show at the Masters, you probably know that Johnny is the president of the PBA, elected in 1978. Gil now Goes after the 8-pin. And picks it up, but Guppy Troup is working on 2 strikes already. First appearance on national television this year for Gil Sliker, and he has bowled 219 and 208 in the 2 matches. His match play record, though, just even at 12 and 12. His high game for the week was 289. His lowest, 166. From Washington, New Jersey, finished 37th last week in the Quad Cities Open in Davenport. He goes Brooklyn, and it's not going to cover that 10-pin.
And I think that the one problem that Gil's having right now, Jim, is you'll notice that he's rushing the foul line a little bit, and as he lets the ball go, instead of staying down the way he always does, he just jerks up a little bit there. That causes the ball to go high. That can be caused by the fact that he's throwing the ball a little bit harder on lane 18 to try to combat lane 18. It might be throwing his rhythm off on 17.
And he picked up a spare in the 3rd frame. We will look at Guppy Troup now as he comes up in the 3rd frame. He was a regional bowler until 2 years ago. His trademark is his colorful pants. I'm sure have seen that, and we'll get another look at it as he gets ready to go out on his approach. He holds a record for 300 games in 1 year. Last year, he bowled 6 of them. Mark Roth has 4 this year. Look at those pants. And outside, but gets in, and he has 3 strikes in a row.
Guppy jumping out to a very early big lead, and this is the one thing that Guppy has going for him, that outside shot. He can play that outside shot when nobody else can. While everybody's having trouble on 18 playing the outside line, Guppy just starts out with 3 solid strikes in a row.
Don't forget, the PBA is giving $5,000 additional, a bonus, for any 300 game on TV for the summer. And here is a guy that rolled 6 of them last year. He was 9th last week in Davenport, and his game is definitely on. Looking for a 4-bagger. Outside, brings it back again, and Guppy Troup has 4 in a row.
And he's really got that elbow cut. It looks terrific.
So Gil Sliker will come up in the 4th frame now. Guppy is perfect, has a pretty good lead of 43 pins, and we'll have more from Waukegan in just a moment. And a reminder that our next event coming up is the Buffalo Open, the $85,000 Buffalo Open. It'll be coming from Cheektowaga, New York. That's up in your territory somewhere. It's just next to Buffalo. The throughway lanes there, and that'll be coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern, 1 week from Friday. That is next Friday.
I'm looking forward to getting north, Jim. As hot as summers as we had, I want to get as north as possible. Maybe the PBA can get a tournament in Anchorage.
Okay. Headband.
There's that half 10 again, but that lane 18, because it's hanging, even when the ball does get to the pocket, it's still breaking about a foot too late. It's called breaking behind the headpin, and that causes the flat or the half 10.
Sliker now left the 10-pin the previous time, picks it up once again here in the 4th frame. So Gil Sliker has 46, working on a spare through 4, and Guppy Troup is perfect. 4 strikes in a row. He's got a 60 in the 2nd frame, and strikes all the way through this match so far. By the way, that Buffalo Open will be the 22nd. I said Friday, which is correct. The date on it is 22nd, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Give me a home with a Buffalo. Outside.
Gil seems to have lost his stroke a little bit, Jim, and he knows he's in trouble because Guppy is hitting the right-hand lane, which has been the key to every match so far. He looks like he's a little bit confused because he has to play both lanes so differently.
He has not struck in this game yet, and Guppy Troup has done nothing but strike. That's the contrast here, going after the spare in the 5th frame, and he picks it up. So he has left 3-6, 10, 3-6, 7, 10, 10 in the next frame, 10 and 2, and just hasn't got a strike. Now back to Guppy Troup, who is perfect through 4.
Solid 10, Jim. He couldn't have thrown that shot any better. Perfect shot, but when you play that outside line, you do leave a lot of 7-10s because of the sharp angle into the pocket. Guppy looks ready today.
Guppy had a 15-8-1 match play record. His high game was 290. He had the highest of all 8-game series, a 1947 in round 4. He had even lost with a 226 in that round. Picks up a spare in the 5th frame. So he is sitting on a 109 spare. Sliker a 65 spare, and that's a difference of 44 pins. In round 4, Guppy Troup had scores of 268, 243, 219, 264, 237, 226, 200, and finished it off with a 290. How about that?
And right behind Guppy is Dave Davis, Hall of Famer, 18 PBA titles, 4th on the all-time money list. And he's sitting next to Max Brzezinski, who's the president of SuperTouch Incorporated.
Here's Guppy up in the 6th.
Ooh. Now the lead that he has here, the 2-8-10, it's almost impossible to make, Jim. There's only a couple of ways that can be done, and it hardly ever is. And you'll notice here that this split is only left when you're playing this far outside, because the ball at the last 10 feet breaks so sharp, the ball doesn't deflect, goes straight into the pit, and usually the 10 pin goes down from any other place on the lane. But he'll probably just try to get wood here.
Well, picks up the sleeper, left the 10 pin. That'll give him his first open of the match, and he has a pretty good count through 6 frames. He has a 135 open. As you said, the 2-8-10 is certainly next to impossible, and you just went after the 2-pin count. And now, a little bit of daylight for Gil Sliker.
Exactly. If Gil can put a double together here, he would be only 20 pins down plus with a worker.
Turns it in. Beautiful shot. Just perfect in the 6th for Gil Sliker.
Great shot by Gil Sliker. And now he's getting up on the lane that he has been hitting better, lane 17. If he can throw this one, he can turn this match right around.
Well, that's the 3rd strike in the 6th frame of each match. He has picked up a strike in the 6th, the 1st, the 2nd, and now the 3rd match. One of the consistent non-winners on the tour would like to be a winner here. After 5 non-strikes, he looks for 2 strikes, and they fall, and Gil has 2 strikes in a row.
Gil just a little quick on that shot, but really rolled the ball well. Got really good action on that light hit and scrambled him.
So he has come back to pick up a couple of strikes. You'll see the shot going in, and look at the action. Time to remind you, Total Sports ESPN will be back to Waukegan after this message. So we will be in Canada for the Canadian Open, which will be airing on the 29th of August. Another one of our summer tour stops on ESPN.
That's quite a beautiful house, Jim. In fact, Dave Davis, who we pointed out before, did the grand opening for that establishment. It's nice to be going there. I haven't been there, but he said it's a beautiful place.
Well, Guppy getting ready to go on the 7th. He is pausing. I don't know whether he has been signaled that he can go or not.
I think he's just trying to get himself composed. His hand might have been a little wet from the perspiration.
Okay. See if he takes a little extra time getting himself set, too.
Yes,
yeah.
we have monitors.
A little bit. Now he sets it up, puts it in, hits it out, and picks up a strike in the 7th frame. He got there. And the fellow who's averaging 222 for the week now has 135 working on a strike through 7. And Gil Sliker has 85 on a double, also through 7.
Now watch how nice and tight that elbow stays right in there. That creates the finish in the back end. When the elbow flies, the ball doesn't hook to the back end and into the pocket the way that ball did. It usually hangs. The one shot that Guppy didn't do it right, he did leave that 2-8-10 when the ball didn't make it.
He says one of his superstitions is wearing those loud pants. He practices 100 to 150 games a week, he told me. That's incredible. Guppy now, 8th frame, again a perfect hit, and he's got 2 strikes in a row coming right back after 4. The spare in the 5th and open in the 6th, back with 2 more strikes.
And boy, he really answered the call there. He made his best shot of the match right here. Good lift, good fingers, good straight swing. He couldn't have thrown this one any better. Guppy's really sharp today. Look at how hard that ball hit. It didn't deflect 1 inch.
He, too, is going to wipe the ball off a little bit, dry his hand somewhat as he thinks about the shot.
Must be getting hot down there, Jim.
8th frame, he's working on 2 strikes. But he is trailing by 30, so he needs 3, and he's got him. 3 strikes for Gil Sliker.
Very, very key shot. He would have been in a lot of trouble not getting that one, Jim. It would have put him down 30 pins again with only 2 frames to go. Now, if he can throw this one, he can put a lot of pressure on Guppy.
It is exactly 20 now. Both bowlers on 2 strikes, Troup with a 135 and Sliker with a 115. So even though Guppy Troup has 6 strikes out of 8 frames, Gil Sliker is within 20 pins. 9th frame coming up. And he has it on the left side, turns it over. It's not going to get there, and he's got the sleeper.
Right, he's got double wood, the 2-8. He sort of rolled around that ball a little bit, Jim, causing it to skid out. And Gil's really upset with himself. You know, watch as he lets go here, his elbow goes just a little bit to the right, and that will make the ball slide instead of finish towards the pin. See, it's end over end already, and it's not going to come back.
Gil, who has won $24,000 even so far this year, goes after the sleeper and picks it up. Just picturesque as he got that spare in the 9th. Guppy Troup has won $20,820. The leading money winner is Wayne Webb, over $84,000 in 25 tournaments.
Now, Guppy's job right here is to mark twice. If he gets 2 spares, he can lock out Gil Sliker.
Up in the 9th frame, working on a double. He's on the lane. It's been pretty good to him. 1 spare, 3 strikes. Going after another one. 10 pin.
10 pin, good shot. Guppy got a little quick, and that's not too bad, trying to keep the ball off the nose. He knows he only needs 2 marks. Safest thing you can get is a strike, Jim, but if you can't get a strike, the next best thing is 9.
And then a spare after the 9.
Well, you can't chop a 1-pin spare, that's what they say.
Okay, Guppy now going for the spare. Give him a 21-pin lead. Going in to the 10th frame, and that's a pretty good position to be in.
And the situation is this. If Guppy opens, Gil Sliker would have to double to win the game. If Guppy gets any kind of a mark in the 10th frame, he'll lock out Gil Sliker, and Gil will have to wait another week before he can have a chance to become a champion.
Guppy, as we told you, won PBA title, had a 290 this week. A lot of 300 games this guy can roll. $11,000 for first prize, $6,000 for second, $5,000 for third, $4,000, $3,500. He's going to go back, dry his hand off again. Going for a little rosin as well.
They're really starting to sweat down there, Jim. It's been very hot and humid all week, like I said, and today is no different. It can get to you. Now, that time was a disturbance.
Something in the back.
Or I think in the back, I wanted the cameraman moved out from behind the curtain, and Guppy caught it out of the corner of his eye.
Okay, we have several cameras. The TV camera, I don't think that's the one he's referring to.
No,
though.
it's the news camera and Right, and the photographer on the other side of the cameraman there, he turned on the lights that they use to get a little better picture and caught Guppy in the eye.
Screen that you can see behind our TV cameraman. There are other cameramen back there, and that's the problem, and he gets a 9 count.
And Guppy's happy with that one. He knows he pulled the ball a little bit, but it held for a solid 4. Anything like that, a little break in concentration. Well, they're bowling for a lot of money out there, Jim. Can really disturb you. It's happened before.
Well, if he misses this, he still wins, doesn't he, John?
Oh, no, he could lose by a pin if he misses this spare.
1 pin, that is right. The spare will wrap it up. That is correct. If he would have missed it, he would have had a 212, and Sliker could have struck out for a 213, but that wraps it up. Guppy Troup is the winner of the match, and Earl Anthony will be coming up, and incidentally, the #1 player has won the last 5 weeks in a row, and that's a little bit unusual.
Yes, it is. In fact, Earl is, as a few of the other players have always been adamant about that the leader didn't win enough, and there should be a way to make it a little bit better for the leader, because he did lead all week. But the leader has won the last 5 weeks, and Earl's in the #1 slot. We're going to find out if he can keep it going.
And Earl's been one of the people that has been a little bit outspoken, not too much, on just what you were saying about a little bit extra. So that's it. We'll be back with a championship match from Waukegan after this message. Well, there you see the banner signifying Earl Anthony, the champion in 1975, and 1976, and 1977. He is going for the 4th championship of this tournament. That has never been done before in the history of the PBA. There you see the stepladder going up to the championship match.
Jim, when we talked a little while ago about Earl being a little bit outspoken about the leader position, last year he was 1-6 from the leader position. He won 1, lost 6 times. This year he's lost the U.S. Open from the leader position. So I guess he has a little bit of a good reason to be a little upset, I guess would be the right word.
Okay. Guppy Troup now will open the match. He won the previous match, by the way, 223 to 199. Gil Sliker finished with a 199. Guppy got a strike, got 4 of them in a row to open the previous match, and he has a strike in this one as well. These guys have met twice previously in the position round. Earl Anthony won 207 to 172, and earlier he defeated Guppy Troup as well, 226 to 200. Earl is averaging 218 on the TV pair, scores of 237, 212, 207. Guppy Troup is averaging 211, and the position round, of course, was bowled on the TV pair. Dublin, California. 32 titles, the most ever by anybody, and Earl Anthony opens with a strike as well. This guy has won more tournaments, more money than anybody else, and still he was 31 years old when he started on the tour.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. It really is. If Earl wins today, he wins the same amount of titles as my age. I just can't get over there. He, if you'll notice on the show, is the converse of the righties this week, where all the right-handers are playing outside. Earl is playing the 3rd arrow. It might be a little tough to catch because of the camera angle, but he was deep inside this week. And when Earl can play in there, he does seem to dominate most of the other lefties and beat them pretty bad. And he really likes playing in there where most lefties like to play outside.
His match play record is the best of the week, 16-7-1. He has a 224 average. That is the best of the week as well. And 2 strikes in a row for Earl Anthony. So easy the way he sets that ball out there.
Everything is like poetry in motion when Earl bowls. You just gave all of his statistics. That's just a proof of it, too. It's like a fine edge on a razor.
Here's Guppy Troup now. He said he made a slight adjustment with his right elbow this week, throwing the ball the way he did in the old days. And Guppy with 2 strikes as well. Guppy has won only $700 through the first 8 weeks on the summer tour. Earlier this year, he placed 4th in the U.S. Open and 6th near Chicago, so he has done well up in this area. And he was a regional pro in the South in 75 through 77, came out on the fall tour in 78, and promptly won in Battle Creek, Michigan.
I think we're going to have a heck of a match here, Jim, because Guppy bowled really well the first match when he shot 223. A ring and 10 cost him a big game. And he started out with a double here, so he hasn't lost it.
He's from Jacksonville, Florida. Both bowlers perfect so far through 2 frames. Guppy, who opened the previous match with 4, goes for 3. It's in there, and Guppy Troup has a turkey. And again, we remind you the PBA is giving $5,000 for a 300 game on TV for the summer tour. Now back to Earl Anthony.
Here's the man who just had 2 great honors bestowed upon him this week. He was voted by the Bowlers Journal to the All-America team for the 9th consecutive year, which is a record. And he was also voted Bowler of the Decade by his peers, so his fellow pros also think he's the best.
Earl in the pocket, but he doesn't get the 7.
Solid 7, and Earl is really upset about that. He just can, I think he can sense that Guppy's going to bowl a big score, and he's going to need all the strikes he can get.
This was the first tournament 2 years ago after the heart attack that he bowled in, so it was very, very important. Of course, he was a defending champ, 75, 76, 77. He came out here in 78, finished 3rd, and from then he has regained his old form after a spare in the 3rd. And Earl Anthony picks it up, so Guppy Troup with 3 strikes have the advantage so far. Earl Anthony, the bowler of the decade by several publications. How does he look at himself and others in the 80s, the new decade?
Well, there are several really good players out right now that are young players like Steve Martin and Tom Baker and players like that. I think are going to be outstanding players in the 80s. Myself, I'm going to cut back on my schedule quite a bit. I don't plan to bowl maybe more than 10 or 12 tournaments a year over the next 2 or 3 years. I don't expect to be any kind of a threat. I think Mark Ross still going to be tough in the 80s. Of course, like I mentioned, the good young players coming up like Mike Albee and some of the others are going to be the dominant players in the 80s.
Great shot by Earl after that solid 7.
So Earl Anthony, after 2 strikes and the spare in the 3rd frame, right back with a strike back in the 4th. This looks like the match, and the winner will get $11,000. We'll be back after this message. Well, we remind you again of the Men's World Fast Pitch Softball Championships. It'll be going on very, very soon and continue on through Tuesday, September 2nd. You'll see 6 quarterfinal games, 2 semifinal clashes, and a consolation contest before the championship. 10 games of the Men's World Fast Pitch Championships coming up and continuing through September 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern, when you can see the championship game on ESPN. Okay. Guppy Troup has opened with 3 strikes. Last game, he opened with 4 strikes. We're in Waukegan, Illinois, 17th straight year. And counting, and that is just perfect. And Guppy Troup has 4 at the beginning of this match. Again, Guppy with a 60 in the 2nd frame, working on 2 strikes. He has 4 total through 4, and Earl Anthony has a 69 in the 3rd and a strike in the 4th.
And Guppy, unlike his 3 previous opponents, is having no problem whatsoever on lane 18. He's conquered lane 18, he's lined up on lane 17, and this is going to be one heck of a match because Earl hasn't missed a pocket either.
Nope, Earl just got that solid 7 back in the 3rd. Another strike for Guppy, and Earl will be 21 pins down, even though he could have easily had 4 strikes himself, and has 3. Guppy Troup. He has exceeded his total of the previous match. He's got 5 now.
Guppy perfect through 5. He just is really making excellent shots now. His rhythm is back, his swing is back, and the one thing he has to worry about is he's still bowling the king.
Earl Anthony, 11th on the PBA money for this year. He has won $47,241. We told you Wayne Webb was first. Mark Ross second. Mike Halby, another very, very fine bowler. Youngster, $70,000 in third place. Steve Martin, 6th. Tommy Baker, 9th. Earl Anthony, 11th. Johnny Petraglia, 15th. Earl's there, and again, he doesn't get the 7. Same lane, same results.
Solid 7 again. You can't do anything about that, Jim. If you watch right here, you'll notice that the 4-pin, that's the one on in the left corner, the one next to the 7-pin, instead of it coming off the wall and hitting the 7, it goes high and wraps right around the top of it, right around the neck of the pin. It's missing by 1 inch. You can't change anything, just keep throwing it there.
Earl puts it down on the wood. He's got a spare to the 5th frame, but Guppy Troup is perfect through 5. Earl didn't cash last week, although he participated in the Quad Cities Open. He was second to Steve Martin in the U.S. Open this year. He had the high 3-game series of the week, 771, and the high 6-game block, 1463. He was second in qualification, first after the first match play block, first after the second match play block, and first going into the finals.
But now he has a problem. And looking ahead at Earl's potential, there's a potential to 59 should he strike out. And the way it looks with Guppy's stroke, he's going to have to.
Well, you see, the 7 didn't go that time. It didn't go right away, but it did in good style. And Earl Anthony has a strike in the 6th frame. He is 109 halfway through this match, and a strike up in the 6th. But Troup is perfect as he comes up in the 6th frame.
Like all sports, Jim, it's a game of inches. That time the 4-pin caught the 7-pin, slapping it off the wall. Frame before that, it just missed it.
Guppy was born in good old Scotland. Family moved to the United States when he was 3 years old. Again, he dries off his hand. Sixth frame. Way out there, even further than usual, and the 7-pin up.
Well, that ball came a long way, Jim. He not only got it further out, he also got a little bit quicker. And I was really surprised it came back as far as it did, but he got a wall shot 7. You'll see this ball hangs out around the second board for a very long time, way past the 45-foot mark. But he has good lift on the ball. He's so extreme outside that it doesn't make this sharp move here. It doesn't quite get there. It just ran out of lane.
And he goes after the 7-pin. It is the first time in 2 matches that he has left that 7-pin. He has a 139 working on a spare through 6th. Earl Anthony 109 strike. So it's a difference of 30, but Earl is working on the strike with a chance to cut it down with a strike of the 7th. And Guppy Troup will be the first to bowl in that 7th frame.
That's true, Jim. What makes the sport so amazing is games are so much closer than they look sometimes. It's 30 pins, but we've watched Earl leave 2 solid 7 pins on lane 18. Should he carry the next time and strike on 17, it would be only 10 pins, and we'd have a close match all over again.
Guppy Troup, 7th frame. Out and in. Looks good, and he's got the strike in the 7th. So he bounces back after the spare in the 6th. Through 7 frames, he has 6 strikes. At this point in the previous game, he was in a similar situation, except he had 5 out of 7, and we'll be back as Earl Anthony is up in the 7th after this message. There's Earl Anthony getting ready to go on the 7th frame. He is sitting at 109. Another strike for him, and he will cut the lead back a little bit, but Guppy Troup got a strike in the 7th frame himself. So this is a big one for Earl. Big one right here. This is all important, and he got it, and it's a perfect pocket hit on the 7th for Earl Anthony of Dublin, California.
Amazing as it may seem, Jim, that ball actually was about a half-inch deeper than the 2 solid 7s. If you'll notice this one, that the 4-pin never really even goes into the wall. It just pushes right into the 7-pin, takes it back before it ever gets to the sideboard. Right there. You can't leave anything up when you hit there.
So Earl Anthony has a 109, working on a double through 7. Guppy Troup is a 159 in the 6th, and a strike on the 7th. 109 on a double through 6-7 for Earl Anthony, 159 and a strike for Guppy Troup. Here's Earl in the 8th frame. Got it.
We have a match, Jim. What a shot. Open that rack like a can of peas.
So if Guppy Troup does not strike in the 8th frame, the match will be down to 10 and possibly even.
Watch how hard this ball hits, Jim. The ball hits half pocket. He swishes the 5, 4-pin tilts over, the ball goes straight back. That's power. Earl's ball doesn't look like power, but when it gets there, it hits like power.
If Guppy does not strike here and Earl strikes in the 9th, the match is even, provided Guppy spares here, or he may even drop back. 8th frame. Not going to get there, but he gets the action. The ball was not quite there, but the pin count was.
It's amazing, Guppy, from that outside line and the power of that line, how it can get the pins out. As we said before, if it misses a pocket, it can be trouble. But once it gets to the 1-3, the odds of carrying are so good. Look at how hard that ball hit, throwing the 5-pin into the 7.
Look at that reaction. Spun around and looked up and got it.
He stamped his foot so hard, I thought he broke it.
Oh, don't forget the Buffalo Open, the Canadian Open, and also from Sarasota, Florida. Our next 3 and final 3 on the summer tour. Summer's really going by. I guess a lot of people, especially our good friends in Texas, will be glad to. New York as well. It's been hot all over.
That's it.
Here in Chicago as well. There, he's not going to get there this time, but he got the good count, though, and picked up 9.
Yes, Guppy cut his swing a little bit short that time, and the ball didn't finish as much as it normally did on lane 17. You'll notice it here. Guppy's been following through way past his shoulder, and as he lets the ball go here, you'll see just a little stretched out. Instead of up, he stretched it out toward the lane, causing the ball to hang, and he gets 9 out of it.
Yep, a strike by Earl Anthony. Cut it down even further. That strike in the 8th was a mighty big one for Guppy Troup.
We have an interesting situation here, Jim. Although Earl Anthony is down by 9 pins, if he strikes out in the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, he would actually lock out Guppy Troup by 1 pin, 259, and the best that Guppy Troup can bowl is 258. That's why we said before that it's so much closer than it really looks.
Earl already has 3 strikes in a row, and he has 4 of the last 5, looking for 4 more. Trying to become the first person to win 4 tournaments in the same place. And his 33rd of his career, and Earl's got a strike in the 9th frame.
And he is excited. Both bowlers, Jim, if it comes down to 1 pin, it's just who got wrapped in the wrong spot.
Quickly, our thanks to Bud Fisher, the PBA Public Relations Director, Harry Golden, the PBA Tournament Director and his staff, Lyle Zykes and Denny Schreiner for Media Relations, Chuck Bozzano, our TV Coordinator, Roy Bertrand, the proprietor, Bertrand Lanes, George Lawrence, the General Manager and his staff, and our statisticians, Mike Durbin and Frank Ellenberg. We always find a job for Mike Durbin. He has been a valuable addition to our staff, and Matthew Durbin, who is helping in the truck. Frank Ellenberg also has been pretty much of a fixture out there. Here's Earl in the 10th. It is not there. Oh, and the 10th pin is up. How in the world did that stay?
Earl pulled the ball in the 10th. His first bad shot of the match. He pulled it, hit way inside his target. Now, instead of his follow-through going towards its target, You'll notice his hand comes right up in front of his head, and it hit about 17 instead of 15 where he's been playing through the nose, and he didn't break up the split.
Oh, dear.
He will have to try for this. This is very important. The wood could possibly mean something, but the spare is much more important.
4, 7, 10 for Earl Anthony. Here it is. He went for it, got 1 pin, and an 8 in the 10th frame for Earl Anthony. So he finishes with a 222. Right now, Guppy Troup is sitting on a 218.
Right. To be the SuperTouch champion, Guppy needs 4 on the first shot, or the second. He'll probably just move in off the gutter, keep it down the center of the lane somewhere. Play it safe.
Here's Guppy Troup.
Looks like he's on about the second arrow. He's going to stay behind the foul line.
4 pins.
He did.
He is on the nose, leads the split, but he wins nevertheless. And Guppy Troup is the winner of the Waukegan Open, and we will be back in a moment. Guppy Troup wins the final match, 245 to 222. The trophy which he has presented, the check which is coming his way for $11,000. For Johnny Petraglia, for everyone here, thank you all. I'm Jim Roberts. So long from Waukegan, Illinois. $85,000 Buffalo Open. Brought to you by Natural Light Beer. Taste is why you'll switch to Natural Light. Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Roberts. Johnny Petraglia is back with us again this week. And, Johnny, as we started, everybody was talking about the young field, the 24 finalists that made it. We are down to 5 now, but we've got some veterans and some excellent bowlers.
Well, that's true. It was a very young field this week, Jim, that made the finals. But the lanes got pretty tough on Friday. And 4 of the 5 finalists are over 30, and the one that's under 30 is a veteran. So I think the knowledge really paid off on the last day of the tournament.
Well, everybody here has won a tournament, so they all know what that's about. And the fellow that's number 1 is the guy that won it last week, and he's hot, Guppy Troup.
Yes, he is. It's almost like a deja vu. Last year, Wayne Webb won these 2 tournaments back-to-back. Now Guppy Troup, he won the SuperTouch last week in Waukegan, and he's leading again this week in Buffalo. He's really got a hot hand.
Well, we had 192 bowlers. There were 18 games of qualifying. Then, of course, 24 of match play. Got us down to the stepladder finals, the top 5, number 5 against number 4, and so on. A veteran in the number 5 spot, the fellow that's been on ESPN a couple of times. He's Tommy Hudson, but, Johnny, the last time he was in the number 1 spot. This time it's number 5.
Yes, it is. Well, Tommy has really been having a good summer. He had trouble earlier in the year, and now he's got his game back together. His wife had a baby. I know he was thinking about that a long time. Now the baby's healthy, his wife's fine, and he has a clear head, and he's really throwing the ball well. I was watching him in practice, and he really looks ready today.
Well, a 213 average. The scores for the finalists, again, go from 213 up to around 219 or 220. In the number 4 position, one of the great bowlers again, Mark Raw.
Right, Mark. Well, last week we watched the bowler of the decade, Earl Anthony. This time we're going to watch the bowler of the year for the last 3 years, Mark Roth. And Mark has done it all. He's led in average, he's led in money, and anytime Mark is on, no matter what position he's in, that's the man to beat.
Well, the story on him, of course, he has won no championships in 1980, but he has 5 seconds, and he's just been a tremendous bowler. If he gets number 1 or number 2 today, he will be the leading money winner of the tournament for the year, although he won't have won a title unless he gets it today.
That's true. If Mark wins today, he goes into the lead for money winnings, and it's getting late in the season, and it's very important for Mark to win today because a bowler of the year is still up for grabs, and this would really give him a good chance at it.
Well, Joey Berardi is number 3. He's a guy that kind of grew up in the bowling world. He's only 25 or 26, but yet you got to call him a veteran, too.
Yes, you do. In fact, Joey was sort of like our little brother in the beginning of his career because he was 9 or 10 years younger than we were, and he's really developed into a great bowler over the last few years. He's changed his game quite a bit, and he won the U.S. Open a couple of years ago, which gave him all the confidence that he needed, and he's been bowling well ever since. In fact, I'm not even sure if he's missed the finals yet this summer.
Well, last year at this very tournament, he bowled a 300 game. It was not in the championship game, and it was not on TV either, so he'd like to duplicate that feat if he can. Another great bowler in the number 2 position from Charlotte, North Carolina, George Pappas.
George is one of the veterans of the tour, one of the classic stylists of the game. George's biggest asset, he throws a fairly straight ball, not too much hook, and he's extremely accurate. His whole game depends on accuracy. George is the type of bowler, when he's on, he hits his target. And when he hits his target, he hits the pocket. When he misses it, he doesn't. So George's whole game is accuracy, and that's been his whole career. He's one of the most accurate bowlers out here.
Well, he has a 215 average. He is tied with Guppy Troup for the leading match play record of the week, both 17 and 7. As we told you, the guy that's red hot is Guppy Troup, although last week he was not number 1 going into the finals, but he wound up winning the championship. Now he comes in, and he is number 1.
Well, I talked to Guppy before. It's funny, last night he said it's the most nervous he's ever been. He couldn't figure out why. And I guess overnight he figured it out, because I was talking to him a little while ago, and Guppy said, I'm as loose as I could ever be. I'm really ready. He says, for the first time, I honestly can say that I really think I'm going to win this week.
Well, he's got the same shirt, the same pants, or at least he said he was going to wear those same clothes. Superstition, of course, he won it last week in Waukegan. Number 5 is Tommy Hudson. He'll do battle in the opening match against Mark Roth. The winner of that one against Joey Berardi at number 3. George Pappas stands by to take on the winner of that one. And then Guppy Troup will face the winner and the survivor. First prize this week is $10,000 in the $85,000 Buffalo Open. And we'll be back with the opening match on Total Sports ESPN after this message.
Light beer, Mr. Monaconti.
And I switched to natural lights.
You switched from that other light beer?
Yeah, I think natural lights got the taste that leaves them all in the backfield.
You bet, and there's nothing artificial in this less filling beer. It's made with only natural ingredients.
The real point is taste. Besides, since I switched to natural light, I'm making a name for myself.
Hey, Nick Monaconti! Where? I know him.
Natural light. Taste is why you'll switch.
Okay, there's the handshake, and we are ready to go now on the opening match of our ESPN finals. Tommy Hudson and Mark Roth. And Johnny, when we were down there doing the Open just a minute ago, it is very, very warm.
Yes, it is, Jim, and I think that's going to play a very important factor today, especially if the man from 4th to 5th goes all the way.
Tommy Hudson opens the match. He comes from the number 5 spot. He's got the 10 pin to drop in his tracks, and he opens with a strike.
Tommy looked really sharp in practice, Jim, and he picked it up right here where the match started off. You know the ball is rolling well when it hits that half pocket spot and kicks out the 10 like that.
Here's Mark Roth. He is wasting no time. He'll crank it out there pretty good. Brings it back. Got the action. He drops the pin as well. And both of them have started this match with a strike. And Mark Roth, I had a chance to talk to him, asked him the key to making the final 5, and how does he assess the field.
And I went home, and I didn't bowl for 2 weeks. In the last 2.5 weeks I bowled pretty well. I changed my hand position with the ball. I raised it up higher. I felt more comfortable and more relaxed, and probably one of the reasons why I bowled good this week. And the field today, I think it's real strong. Yeah, everybody that's been on the show has been a champion, and we're all proven champions, so anything could happen this afternoon.
Well, he's kind of set the stage for it. He comes back and picks up a strike. He's got 2 in a row after Hudson started with a strike. We'll remind you, PBA is giving $5,000 for a 300 game on TV during the summer tour. Haven't had any as yet. We've had a couple that have gone 5, 6, and 1. Steve Cook had 8. Here's Tommy Hudson. And he's got a strike as well. Good action by both of them. 4 balls and 4 strikes, Johnny.
What a powerful shot that was, Jim. Usually it's called swishing the 5. When you hit that half-pocket hit, you take the 5 into the left-hand wall. Tommy's ball was so strong that time, it actually pushed the 5 straight back into the pit before it ever got to the wall. The ball can't hit any harder than that.
These two guys met earlier in the week. Tommy Hudson lost to Mark Roth, 235 to 188. Composite average, by the way, on these 2 lanes, 219. All the top 5 bowlers. Tommy Hudson going for a turkey, and he's got it.
Great shot by Tommy Hudson. He really looks sharp on this pair, Jim. He's got his ball rolling end over end. And it seems to be really setting up nice in the end. He's not getting overhooked in the back end, so the ball's carrying very well.
What a match we've started with here. Mark Walt now looking for his third strike in a row. Puts it out, puts it in, going to have to get the action, does not, and he leaves the bucket.
A little quick that time for Mark. What he mentioned earlier about holding the ball higher, Mark's fault, if it ever has a fault, is he gets the ball in his swing a little bit too early. And by overcorrecting that, a lot of times it'll make you rush the line just a hair. That's where the extra speed came from, not making the ball finish and leaving the bucket.
Mark, 29 years of age, from Little Silver, New Jersey. 5th appearance on ESPN this summer, including the Masters. Going after the bucket, puts it right down there, just barely kicked that right pin out, and he's got a spare in the third frame.
And Mark looks a little confused about that spare, because when he let it go, it looked like he had it covered perfectly all the way. And the ball actually hooked about 3 boards the last 2 feet. He didn't want to see that happen.
Mark qualified second this week. He was 4th after the first match play block, up to 3rd after the second match play block, and then dropped down to 4th. Looked like he was a little unsure as he let the ball go, and he leaves the 10 pin.
Right, he got up on his toe that time at the line, Jim. That causes your body weight to go forward, and your extension isn't as high as it should be. Almost all the time that happens, your ball won't have the authority to strike.
He's the last player to win back-to-back tournaments last fall on ESPN, Indianapolis and Cleveland. And he would like to pick up the first tournament of this year. Amazing when guys won over $80,000 but hasn't won a crown. He picks up the spare, so he has 2 strikes and 2 spares. When we come back, Tommy Hudson will be up in the 4th. He's working on strike, 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 and we'll be back after this message.
So, Timmy, what do you want to be when you grow up?
An ace hardware man, Miss Summers, because they help people.
Yeah, like the ones I tell people about on TV?
Uh-huh. Ace hardware men help people take care of their homes. They show them how to fix things and make things. They know just about everything.
Well, I certainly made an impression on you.
Something like that.
Time to go, son.
Okay, Dad.
Something like that.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware man.
Well, we remind you, ESPN covering all of these summer events. Total Sports ESPN. Our next event is Friday, August the 29th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. That'll be the Canadian Open from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. So join us for that one as well as all of them right here on ESPN.
Really looking forward to that one, Jim. I've never been there before. I hear it's a beautiful house, and it's nice to make trips to Canada once in a while.
Okay, I haven't been in there either, so we'll find out together what it's like. Here's Tommy Hudson. He's got 3 strikes in a row. From Akron, Ohio, the home of the PBA, the main office there. He's in there, and the 7th goes, and Tommy has 4 in a row. Hudson was 32nd last week in Waukegan. There's Barbara Hudson and their lovely daughter. Lisa Ann is what, about 4 months old now?
She's about 4 or 5 months old now.